The city of Denver, Colorado was known for its wide skies, the Rockies stretching like ancient guardians in the distance, and the way the moonlight seemed brighter here than anywhere else. For Natalie Parker, the city carried both comfort and longing. At 23, she was juggling her graduate classes in English literature and her part-time job at a little independent bookstore downtown. Life wasn't easy, but books gave her a place to dream, to imagine worlds beyond her reach. Natalie's favorite part of her day was the quiet hours at Golden Pages, the bookstore tucked between a coffee shop and an old music store. Its wooden shelves smelled of pine, and fairy lights hung across the aisles, giving the shop a cozy glow even in winter. She often worked late, arranging novels and sipping coffee, humming softly to herself. What she didn't expect was for her quiet nights to be interrupted by someone who would change the rhythm of her heart. That someone was Ethan Reynolds. Ethan had grown up in Chicago but recently moved to Denver for a fresh start. At 25, he carried a quiet strength about him, a calm that made people feel they could trust him instantly. He worked as a firefighter, which meant he often came home with soot on his hands and exhaustion in his eyes, but also with stories that spoke of courage. Denver was still new to him, and though he liked his job, he sometimes felt like a stranger walking through someone else's hometown. One evening, Ethan wandered into Golden Pages after finishing his shift. His uniform shirt was tucked into his jeans, the smell of smoke faint on him, but his smile warm as he held the door open. Natalie, behind the counter, looked up and noticed him immediately. "Hi, welcome," she greeted, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thanks," Ethan replied, glancing around at the shelves. "This place looks like it's from another time." Cozy Natalie smiled. "That's the idea." "What kind of books do you like?" Ethan hesitated. "Truthfully, I haven't read much since high school. Too busy, but I guess I'd like to start again." There was something earnest in the way he admitted it. Natalie felt her chest warm. She stepped out from behind the counter and led him toward the fiction section. "Then we'll find you the right story," she said. That night, Ethan left with a copy of The Great Gatsby. Natalie had recommended it gently, promising he'd enjoy the simple but layered story. What neither of them knew was that his visits would soon become a habit, and their lives would slowly entwine under the Denver moonlight. The weeks passed, and Ethan stopped by the bookstore every few days. Sometimes he'd buy another book. Other times he'd just chat with Natalie. Their conversations began light, favorite foods, music, or funny customer stories, but soon grew deeper. Natalie learned that Ethan had lost his father at a young age, and that being a firefighter wasn't just a job, but a tribute to the man who once wore the same badge. Ethan, in turn, discovered Natalie's love for writing. She dreamed of publishing her own novel one day, though she often doubted whether her words were good enough. One evening, as winter melted into spring, Ethan walked into the shop with 2 cups of hot cocoa from the cafe next door. He handed one to Natalie. "Long day?" he asked. She nodded. "Midterms. My brain feels fried." "You'll make it," he said, his voice steady. "You're stronger than you think." She laughed softly, sipping the cocoa. "You always know the right thing to say." Ethan leaned against the counter, watching her with quiet eyes. "Or maybe I just like talking to you." Natalie froze, her cheeks warming. She quickly looked down, pretending to straighten the stack of books in front of her. She didn't know how to reply, but in that silence, something unspoken settled between them. The bond between them grew stronger over the following months. They started meeting outside the bookstore, grabbing coffee on Sundays, walking along Sloan's Lake under the stars, and even hiking trails in the Rockies. Natalie had never been much of an outdoors person, but Ethan's presence made her braver. One late afternoon, as they stood on a trail overlooking the city, the sky painted pink and gold, Natalie whispered, "It feels like the world is endless up here." Ethan smiled. "It is, Nat. Endless, but worth exploring, with the right person." Her heart raced at his words, but she only smiled in return, unable to speak. But life has a way of testing even the strongest of connections. One summer evening, a massive fire broke out in an apartment building downtown. Sirens wailed, smoke filled the air, and chaos erupted on the streets. Ethan was among the first to arrive, with his crew. Natalie, watching the news on her small TV at home, froze when she saw the building. It was only blocks away from the bookstore. Her heart pounded when she realized Ethan was inside. She rushed